everyone, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and today I'm back with another finished jewelry update to share with you some of the things that I've been up to for the month of October. If you are new here, I want to give you a warm welcome. I'm so glad you found my channel. You've probably seen a lot of the bead box sharing that I do here on a regular basis, but one of my favorite things to do is to actually come back and share with you some of the pieces that I have created from those contents. I like to tell you a little bit about them, maybe go into my thought process just a bit, share with you more about where the materials came from and what I use to hopefully inspire you to get out your beads and maybe do some more creating. It's always fun to see people using things from similar materials but coming up with something totally different, and that's one of my favorite things about beading subscriptions. So I have a few different things to share with you today, including items with both stringing and bead weaving techniques, a couple things you may have seen from recent tutorials, and then I have some new things as well. This first necklace is from the contents of this month's Sam's bead box, which had the Art Deco theme, and we got some beautiful jewel tones as well as some of the black and gold check glass bead varieties. And this is just one item to give you an example of something that could be put together from a Sam's bead box. I'm trying to spread around the projects a little bit to give you ideas from multiple boxes, not just one. So I really liked all the black and gold elements that were part of the box this month, and I thought it was a really classic combination with a lot of really interesting beads included that pair very well together, and I wanted to show them off. I created this 2-strand necklace using the larger 8mm fire polish beads towards the center of the 2 strands at the bottom of the necklace and have them come together into the beaded links that you see on either side that I created as focals. Really wanted to show off those fan-shaped deco style beads. And I also like how the flat ovals have a similar fanned out or starburst like design and kind of tie those together using that tone on tone elegant shade of gold. Also included in the box were some size 8/0 Toho seed beads. They had the crystal exterior with the gold colored lining and then a little bit of a luster shine on the outside. And I use those as spacer beads in this design. You can see them separating out a lot of those fire polish beads. We had gotten the 4mm size as well that matched the 8mm fire polish. So I decided to use those going further back on both of those main strands, creating a graduated element since we had that great opportunity to do that. I also included some of the golden round or druck beads that matched this gold tone so well. I used those to add length to the back of the necklace and also used the remaining 4mm fire polish beads back there and some seed beads. I finished that off with a hook and eye clasp that I felt looked a little bit more antique and matched the essence of the Art Deco style a little bit better than a simple lobster clasp. And I also put together a matching pair of earrings using 2 of the remaining 8mm fire polish beads and 2 of the starburst flat ovals at the bottom. Again, to give it more of that antique flair, I used some of the paddle style hammered head pins there at the bottom, and then at the top I used some of these antique brass ear stud earring findings that I believe came in a not too distant bargain bead box. So that is my Sam's bead box design for the month. I have so many beads still left over from that subscription, but like I said, I am trying to put some things together from all different boxes to round out what I share here in these finished jewelry updates. Up next is a lariat style necklace that I created from the contents of the October bargain bead box that had the theme I believe was called In the Woods. We received these really deep dark shades of reddish brown as well as some of the lighter crystal beads that I used to break up some of the darkness. Our findings color of the month and metallic components were all antique brass. And here you'll see some of the 10mm red tiger eye round beads toward the front of the necklace. I used the smaller garnet round beads, the 4mm size, towards the back and at the very front, and also some of the antique brass spacer beads to complement what I had going up and down the strand. Here is a closer look at the front of the necklace. We received this owl-themed pendant finding, and I thought because there was a large enough opening on the side, I could use that as a really interesting element for a lariat necklace, allowing the other end of the strand of that to drape directly through that opening. And I just added one of those feather components closer to that section, which also acts as sort of a toggle clasp. Easy enough to slip through that open area, but not as easy for it to just come apart on its own. And then to go along with the necklace, I made a pair of coordinating earrings using some more of those crystal beads. You can see a closer look of those English cut crystals here as well. I just made some simple wire wrapped loops with some head pins and added those onto the bottoms of two more of these feather components, which also match the ones in the necklace. So there's a look at these pieces together so you can see them as a set. I happen to really like lariat style necklaces because they offer some adjustability, which is great if you don't know who is going to be the recipient of the necklace, but also because they are a lot easier to get on and off, especially if you have trouble with certain types of clasps, especially behind your neck. These next two necklaces you may have already seen because I did share the tutorial recently, and therefore you can make one of these too, especially if you receive this month's bargain bead box, but otherwise the materials are very common in these. I just used some 4mm crystal bicones, 11 seed beads, and then the other beads I used, you can switch those out easily for different sizes. I've got some 3mm faceted Hessianite garnet, and there's also some 6mm English cut carnelian stones that are concentrated more towards the front of the necklace. I won't go into this one too much because you can see that tutorial for all the details, but basically we made these small bead woven components first, and then we strung everything together onto bead stringing wire. So if you're newer to bead weaving or maybe wanted to try a project that isn't as time consuming or intimidating, this would be a good project to try out because those components are small and they use very common materials. I'll try to leave links to certain things that I'm mentioning today right down below the video or in the corner of the video. So hopefully it'll help you to navigate to the content that I'm mentioning. These are some other pieces that I've already shared. I showed you these in the half drilled pearl special deal box video. That special deal you can pick up at beading school, and I wanted to just share a few pieces that include the half drilled pearls so you could see some ways they can be used. I call this design the Ice Dancer earrings, and they come from one of my latest tutorials, so you can find out how to make these yourself if you'd like to. And since they are made of a beaded component, they are great for making something exactly like this, or you can put the beaded component with that crystal with other things that you have in your stash. Those earrings actually came from the contents of the Beading School Academy subscription box. And then with the most recent Beading School Academy box, I made a necklace using some of these beaded beads, a design I came up with where I created this sort of loose netting with seed beads over top of the larger melon beads that you see there in the dark bronze. I left some of them without the extra beading on top and then included those to break up the beaded beads a little bit. I also brought in some of those check glass faceted teardrops that were in that beautiful turquoise color and complement the seed beads very nicely, I think. And then I strung everything together on bead stringing wire and included the dark bronze colored round druck beads along the back to finish up the length of the necklace, and added some of those smaller 3mm rounds to add just a tiny bit of extra length. You can see another one of those teardrops that I attached to the bottom of a piece of chain to use as an extender, and some 11 seed beads were used in between each of those round druck beads as coordinating spacers. I will try to do a tutorial for these beaded beads, so if you'd like to see one, of course, please let me know. I haven't experimented yet, but I would even like to try doing this design on top of some crystal rondelles in a similar size. I think they're like an 8x6mm. So it could be a very versatile design to use even if you didn't pick up this particular box, but maybe have some similar things already in your stash. And next, here you can see that I was having some fun playing with the beaded spiral ropes. This is another really simple and basic bead weaving stitch type of technique that I'm hoping to come back with soon, just like I did recently with the different variations on the daisy chain stitch. And also, just like I did with those videos, I used the contents of this month's Beads to Live By subscription box, which is a newer type of box that you can pick up that sends you a selection of 8 types of seed beads in a curated color palette on a monthly basis. This month's palette was very much fall inspired, and so for the wrap style bracelet on the left, it made sense to go with that vintage check glass leaf button to pull everything together. I also wanted to include a button with one of these projects because of the fact that Beads to Live By has that alternate vintage button subscription where they'll send you a selection of 8 of those on a monthly basis. And this one happened to come from last month's selection, but I just loved how this leaf design looked with these autumn-like colors. So there's a closer look at the spiral stitch. I used 3 different colors of seed beads in this one, a more muted sort of light olive green in the background, and then some of the pumpkin orange and bright golden yellow, which form that spiral striped look up and down the rope. And I wanted to give you a closer look at the clasp portion so you could see how I form the loop, adding on a section of herringbone stitch, which I already have a bead weaving basic tutorial for to show you how to do that stitch. And there's a look at the button so you can see how that is attached, and you can simply just wrap that around your wrist 3 times and close that up with the button clasp. Up next for the month, this is one of my favorites because I love how these 2 colors of seed beads work in such a great way with that large lampwork style glass pendant. Also, something I like is how there is a spiral design going on inside of the pendant, and that picks up the spiral design that you see on the beaded rope itself. Something else that was really cool about this, and I didn't even know I was going to put these 2 things together until a little bit later after I'd started beading the rope, but the hole on the pendant is large enough that I was able to get 2 strands of this beadwork through the hole and create one of those really simple knots there at the top that I think is a pretty cool and unusual touch to pull that all together, and pretty simple too. Here's one example of a way you can finish off this type of a rope. I just simply used some wire and I fed that through the end of the beadwork, added some of those golden spacer beads to that, and then created a wire wrapped loop with the 2 ends of wire, which gave me a place to add that portion of the clasp. And you can see that I just did the same thing on both sides. And then finally, for new bead weaving, I have a design in the works using some of the 2-hole Rula beads, 3mm fire polish, and some size 15-0 seed beads. I haven't done a tutorial using the Rula beads yet, I don't believe, or at least one that mainly uses them, and they come a lot of times in the Beads of the Month clubs, especially the 2-hole beads monthly club that I share on a regular basis. I've got the golden colored one beaded directly into some of the Symbol brand metallic bead ending components that I really like, and then the other one is just finished with some wire guards and a toggle clasp. Here are those designs up close. The Rula beads are placed in that sort of a crosshatch type pattern, and then the 3mm beads and the seed beads are used to enhance that design. There's a look at the back of these so you can see that Rula placement a little bit better. These have a great drape to them, and there's an openness to this design. So stay tuned for a tutorial for this particular design. And then last is this pair of earrings that I almost forgot. These came from the contents of Sam's bead box as well. I just loved those bright red table cut check glass diamonds, and then I used some of those fan shaped beads with the gold wash at the bottom, wire wrapping these to some very simple post style earring findings. Well, that wraps it up for this month's finished jewelry update. I really appreciate having you here to check out all these pieces, and I hope you enjoyed it and maybe you found some inspiration from something that you've seen here today. I can't believe we're already at the end of October, which means the November bead boxes will start rolling in here pretty soon. But I look forward to bringing you some more videos and especially tutorials and more finished pieces in the near future. So be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I would love to have you back for those. Feel free to leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you've been up to, or if you have a favorite item that you see here today or anything else you'd like to say. You can give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also feel free to share the video with your other beading friends. That's all I have for now, but I will see you all again real soon, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and as always, happy beading.